Hi, I'm Jason Stahl, editor of BodyShop Business. Today's high-performing collision centers have standardized their materials and processes to help ensure consistent and quality results. Even with standardization, sometimes problems can occur during the bodywork and paint process. Joining me today is Tim McKinney, Senior Application Engineer from Evercoat. Tim has worked in body shops and has dealt with almost every issue while working for Evercoat. Today, Tim will discuss some of the do's and don'ts of the bodywork and paint process to help make your shop more productive, avoid rework, and save you money.
So tell you what, I can mix up a little bit of product here real quick and kind of walk through that a little bit. And you can actually even apply a little bit of the product on here, just to kind of show some mixing techniques as well as we're going through the process. One of the points I always try to bring about with the materials is, regardless what you're using in the shop, everything we use goes from a liquid to a solid at one point, right? Make sure it's evenly mixed up, whether it's your primer, whether it's your toners, or your body fillers. Mix the materials up just so you make sure that however you start is the way you end, that it's in a homogeneous mix from start to finish.
So that mixing process is very important.
Yeah, yeah. You don't have to do it every day. You don't have to do it every time you open the can, but when you first get the product up, just mix the product up, make sure it's evenly mixed from start to finish, and then put the lid back on. That's another issue I see as well. The other thing about this is mixing up the product. So if they were going to cocktail, to using that reference, we want to catalyze this at around 2%. Well, for a 2% for a 4-inch puddle, and that's about a 4-inch puddle, I want to go at least edge to edge. Even if it's skinny, if it touches edge to edge, that's going to get us pretty close to 2%. We don't want to go radically low. If we go too low, less than 1%, now we're under catalyzing it. Have you ever mixed up body filler and feel it starts to get some heat? Okay, if you don't put enough chemical in to create enough heat, it doesn't properly cure. So then think about this. You paint the car black. It's sitting in a parking lot in the summertime. It gets hot. It'll post-cure. And those are some of the issues that can come up even with like repair mapping. So I'm going to knead this tube up. Make sure it's evenly mixed as well, just like I did with the product in the can. And then I'm going to put a bead of hardener on here. Again, very quickly, we're just going to take it from edge to edge. Put that in there. One of the ways that I see technicians mixing the product up, you don't want to just stir it up, because if you stir it up, you could be incorporating air or throwing it around quite a bit. So one of the ways I'll do it is kind of start getting it to incorporate. And you can mix it this way by pressing the air out of it. Or as one of my friends showed me from Germany, this technique. And their approach to this was you're not folding it over repeatedly and incorporating more air into the product.
You don't want to do that.
You don't want to put air into it, because what happens then is you've got air in the product. Now you carry it over here, you've got air in the repair, and you've got more pinholes. So after I get this all spread out, I want to spread the material out. And it's going to give you a little more work time. It's not going to give you minutes, but it's going to give me a few extra seconds before I apply the product. And in some of the areas like Texas or Florida where it's hot, you want a few extra seconds. So first thing to help cut down on the pinholes, some of the problems that we see are wetting the surface. I want to put just enough material on there that I can actually saturate the surface with resin.
Is there such a thing as putting too much material or too little material?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because if I see a scenario like this, where it all goes on at one time, you can actually see the air bubbles trying to work their way up to the surface. So what we want to do is just wet the surface with our product. Take some of this back off of here. Wet the surface, and then after I've got everything wet, slowly start coming in and building up the repair. Build it up in stages. Whenever all the material is applied at once, what happens is you've trapped air into that surface. And as it starts to exotherm, create that heat we were talking about a moment ago, and cures, any air pockets that we have that are going to be down in the middle of that repair, well, now they've gotten bigger because you put more heat into them. Heated air expands, right?
And does that result in the pinholes we talked about?
Yes. Those heated air pockets are going to create pinholes, and those are going to be the nasty things we're going to have to fight at the end of the repair. What I'll do is come back and spread it out the other way. Helps to work the air pockets out a little bit more. And after I've got it looking where I've got the area filled in, what I'll do, another little tip, if I leave it like this and I come back and I try to sand it, it's going to be very difficult to sand off these edges without sanding through the clear coat.
Yeah.
I've sanded the whole thing down with 180 grit. So what I'm going to do is come back and create a little bit of a bevel with the material while it's still wet and work it like that.
Should you aim to make it totally smooth on the surface, or is that not totally essential?
It's not going to be totally essential because as I've applied the product, if you look, it looked like there was still a bit of a dent there, and it still does.
Yeah.
But if you look at the outside of the hood from how deep it is, there's a lot of material in there. What it's doing is it's kind of following the contour of the dent. But I've built enough on that. What's going to happen is when I sand it, I should sand that area out. I'm trying to put as much material on there in a slow, controllable form versus just throwing it all on at once and building it up a little bit. So hopefully I've applied everything in one shot. This particular product I'm using here, Rage Ultra, can go over a 180 grit sand scratch over top of the paint. So I didn't have to take it down to bare metal. I've prepped it with 180 grit. I'm actually going to sand this product with 180 grits, and I'm going to be done. It's a one-step process product, so I don't have to work so hard. Again, back to what I was saying a moment ago, I'm making the product work a little harder so I don't have to.
Work smarter, not harder.
Exactly, that's what it's all about. All right, and that is going to be kicking off here in just a second.
Tim, thank you so much for your time today, giving us all this great information on troubleshooting tips when applying body filler. Pinholes being the #1 problem. We talked about proper catalyzation, that's hugely important. I'm Jason Stahl, thanks for watching.